but some of the most talented, maybe most importantly, the word talent, successful and innovative business leaders anywhere on the planet. Whether you have come from near or far, we're delighted to have you invest right here in the hottest country anywhere in the world. Every leader is saying the United States we're the hottest country in the world. We're going to keep it that way too. But this has been, according to those that seem to say it, and I will say it, I would never say a thing like that because I want to be very modest. I always want to be modest as I can. They say this has been the best 9 months that any president has ever had. I'd say that's pretty good, right? But we've had a great 9 months. Now we have to do it more than a few more times. We just have to keep it going. We'll keep it going. I want to thank my friend, a great gentleman, Crown Prince Mohammed of Saudi Arabia, for his bold leadership and deep commitment to the ties between our two countries. Thank you. Thank you. Great gentleman. Yesterday, we had a phenomenal visit at the White House celebrating the 80-year bond between the United States and Saudi Arabia. We ended with an unbelievable show last night in a room that was far too small, but the next time you're here, you'll have a much bigger room. It's going to be much bigger. I made more enemies last night by we had 119 people. That was a record for the room. So they've wanted for 150 years. They've been clamoring for a ballroom at the White House, and we're giving them one. We're giving them one plus, and it'll be something. But you'll be here. You'll be among the first, if not the first, if you'd like. You know, we'll work it out. But you had a lot of people that wanted to be there. They really would have witnessed something that was really incredible. The entertainment last night was incredible, including our great opera singer, but including the military. The talent and the military musically is also incredible. So it was great to be with you last night. I think it was something to behold. We officially designated the kingdom yesterday as the major non-NATO ally. That's a big deal. That's actually a very big deal. Great honor. That happens seldom, very seldom, if at all. So I just want to congratulate you on that. That's a sign of trust. We signed a historic strategic defense agreement yesterday also, and that's something that is likewise very rare, and it's a very honored company that you're in. And we're going to be selling Saudi Arabia some of the greatest military equipment ever built. We build the best military equipment in the world by far. That's why we do the most business, including nearly 300 American-made tanks is what you're buying, among many other things, the airplanes, and we're working on getting that approved very quickly. It's already approved, but don't worry. We have to go through a process. The process will take, Elon knows, the process will take about, would you say 24 hours? I think so. You're in good shape, very good shape. The partnership between our two nations is among the most consequential in the entire world, and together the Crown Prince and I are making an alliance stronger and more powerful than it's ever been before. We've had good relationships and, frankly, not good. You didn't have a good relationship with Barack Hussein Obama. You didn't have a good relationship with sleepy Joe Biden. But you had a great relationship with me, and now it's as good as it was, and probably even better if you think about it, because we took the dark cloud away from your country. It was called Iran and its nuclear capability, and we obliterated that very quickly and strongly and powerfully. But that was a real cloud over the whole Middle East, and now they want to make a deal. They want to make a deal. They want to see if they can work out a deal with us, and we'll be doing that probably. But that was a terrible cloud that you had to live with for a long time. 22 years they were thinking about doing that, the B-2s. That was even before the B-2s. Those B-2s, what machines they were, they flew in, they were undetectable. And they dropped their payload, and every single bomb hit its exact mark, which was a shaft going deep into the mountain. and every single one of them hit, and it was total obliteration. And then I was criticized by some of the fake news for saying the word obliteration was too strong, perhaps. They had no idea. Nobody saw it. 3 days later, when the Atomic Energy Commission went, they said it was total obliteration, beyond obliteration, they said. But they want to make a deal. We'll see what happens. This week, our countries also signed groundbreaking agreements on civil nuclear energy, critical minerals, and artificial intelligence. And I want to congratulate a lot of the great American leaders, business leaders that are in the room. And you'll do a great job for Saudi Arabia and for a lot of other people in the room that are buying your product, taking your product, and using your product. All of that is in addition to the $600 billion investment in the United States that Saudi Arabia announced during my unforgettable visit there last spring. Well, I said, could you try and get that up to $1 trillion? And yesterday, the Crown Prince announced that the number that they'll be investing in the United States is $1 trillion. So that's really an honor. And we just took a picture backstage with some of the great business leaders and some of the great people, friends of mine from your country, and beautiful picture. And while we were taking the picture, I said, could you make it 1.5 trillion? So he's got something to think about. I don't know. We'll get something. I think we'll get something, Scott, right? But many of you in the room are playing a key role in making these projects happen, and we're told that $270 billion in agreements and sales are being signed between dozens of companies, and that's just happening today, $270 billion. That's big stuff. So on behalf of the thousands of American workers who I care about most, I want to thank you for bringing all those jobs and all those great opportunities to America and bringing great wealth to America. We've become a very wealthy country. We have a couple of little things. We're waiting for a decision. We hope that's going to be good, but if it's not, we always find ways, we find ways, but we've done things that nobody thought were possible, and we're taking in trillions and trillions of dollars. Tariffs have been, frankly, the best thing that's ever happened to our country. They've always been used against us, and we never had people that were smart enough to use them in the opposite direction. But now you do, and we have taken in trillions of dollars, and it's been absolutely amazing. We're going to be doing a dividend to the people, low and middle income, moderate income people, of at least $2,000. In addition to that, we'll be paying down debt very substantially. It's the kind of money we're taking in. And really, countries that took advantage of us are no longer taking advantage of us. Friends, some of our friends treated us far worse than our enemies on trade anyway, and we've got that all straightened out. And everybody's happy. They respect us again. It's like one of those things. I think they like us better, and they actually respect us, and it works out much better for us, too. But I especially want to thank our numerous Saudi friends here today, including the ambassador to the United States, a friend of mine, Princess Rima. Thank you very much. Great job. Great representative you have. You sent a good representative. And many distinguished ministers and members of the cabinet, governor of the Public Investment Fund. Where's Yasser? Yasser's here someplace. Sometimes I see him dressed both ways. I don't know. It's cooler that way. I'd dress that way if I could. Yasser's terrific. He's a terrific man, actually. So thank you very much, Yasser. And Secretary Scott Bessent, who's been fantastic. Where's Scott? We're thinking about him for the Fed, but he wants no part of it. He likes being Secretary of the Treasury. I think we'll leave him. So let's cross your name off, right? Officially, right? Remember, you said that. I love the Fed job. To me, it's the easiest job in the world. You play golf for 28, 29 days, then you go and make a little speech, tell everybody, in the case of the current guy, the wrong information because he has no clue. But if you have good instincts, it's all based on instincts. I see they want to hire 3,000 economists, 3,000, to report to the Fed chairman What are they going to do? Take all this information? 3,000 economists. That's why they're spending $4 billion on renovating a building that should have cost $25 million to do. They should have spent $25 million. They're building a basement into the Potomac River. I could have told them that's very tough to do and it doesn't work and it's very expensive. But they're up to $4 billion headed by this clown. But we have 3,000, think of it. They want to hire 3,000 economists. So they took a poll and they interviewed 71 people. And of the 71 people, 2 people got it right. 2 people. One was a great economist whose name I won't tell you because I don't like him personally, but he is good. And the other one that got it the most right was a man named President Donald J. Trump. Do you believe it? And I didn't have an economist. Why, it's Scott. But we got it right, didn't we? Huh? We got everything right. Doug Burgum, where's Doug? Will you please drill a little bit faster? Between him and I'll tell you, you and Chris was great on television, and he's setting records. They're setting records, but I'll never be satisfied. Drill, you know, we got elected. Drill we must, I called it. Drill, baby, drill. Con Edison, a great utility from New York many years ago, they used to have it said, drill we must and dig we must. So when they were digging in a road, they'd have a sign, dig we must. Well, now we're putting those utilities to shame because I'm allowing all of those AI plants that are being built to build their own electric generating force, and they're building them like nobody's ever seen, and they're coming up with ideas and new contraptions like nobody's ever seen. And this way they can't blame me for not producing electric. I said, you produce it yourself. And actually, they didn't believe I was saying that because nobody ever thought of a thing like that. They're building a massive plant. They were going to hook it up to a 200-year-old grid. And you know that wasn't going to work because there's no way of doing that. No way we could have done that. And I had the idea. This was my idea, approved by a couple of people. I said, why wouldn't that happen? They're building a plant for $50 billion. You know, if you build a shopping center for $50 million, it's okay. It's not a bad shopping center. $500 million, you're talking about top of the line. $50 billion. So when it was first explained they're spending $50 billion, I said, no, you mean 50 million. No, sir, we mean 50 billion. And then I saw some of them that were the size of Manhattan. I said, they did mean 50 billion. And I said, well, what you're going to do is with that, how would you like to build your own electric generating plant? And they looked at me like I was crazy because something like that, they really didn't understand it. The smart guys, they didn't understand it. They said to me at the next meeting, sir, the biggest problem we have will be electricity. I said, you don't understand. I told you last week, you're going to build your own. I'm giving you approval to build your own plant, and you will be approved within a period of 2 to 3 weeks. It used to take 20 years prior to termination. In other words, you would wait 20 years and you wouldn't make it. You'd be voted down 5 to 4. I said, we're getting you approved in a 2-week, 3-week period. In fact, Lee Zeldin, one of the superstars of this administration, I said, Lee, if it's oil and gas, get them approved in 2 weeks. If it's nuclear, add another week. Because some are going nuclear, and they're doing, be careful. They better be careful, but they are going to be careful. They're the greatest people in the world. So now they come back and they actually believed it, and now they're being approved rapidly, and we have things being built, the likes of which nobody's ever seen. We're leading China by a lot in AI. And we're also bringing auto plants in from Canada and from Mexico. They took them, and they're all coming back. They're all coming back because of tariffs. If we didn't have tariffs, I mean, they like the fact that we won the election by a landslide on November 5th. That helped. But they're all coming back, and they're coming back from Germany and Japan. Toyota just announced, as you know, $10 billion worth of new plants. They just announced it last week, I went to various countries, and Japan was one of them. And Toyota's coming in with a $10 billion investment in 4 or 5 plants. Now, we're going to be more advanced than we were. So we led the car industry like 100% 50 years ago. We led the chip industry 30, 40 years ago. We had 100%. Then people came in and started taking it. I don't blame them, Taiwan, et cetera. They took 100% because we had no president that protected our industry. If we would have said, it's wonderful that you're going to Taiwan, we think it's great, but when you sell your product back into this country, there will be a 250% tariff. Nobody would have left. Nobody would have left. And Intel would have been a giant. Intel would have been, where's Jensen? Intel would have blown, well, he now owns a big chunk of Intel. He's got it figured all different ways. Where are you, Jensen? Stand up. You have done such a good job. And you had a good 2 days, I understand, right? A good 2 days. How's Blackwell doing, okay? Any recent competitors? Anybody going to blow Blackwell away in the next week? They say 10 years, I don't know, maybe 2 years, 3 years. But you will not be stopping there. You'll be going further fast, right? An amazing job you've done. I want to thank Howard Lutnick and Christy Noem for being here. Christy, Howard. Good job. Really good job. My daughter Tiffany's here with her great husband, Michael. Thank you very much, Tiffany. Thank you, honey. She was a great student. She went to Georgetown. She was a great, great student, and she finished really right at the top, and we were proud of you. And she was so proud, and her graduation got canceled because of COVID. But I say if her name were something else, they probably wouldn't have canceled it. They didn't like that she did so well in school. They weren't happy about it. I say they canceled your graduation because you were a great student, and they didn't want, but other than that, I have no problems. You see, I don't take anything personally. Anyway, great job. And of course, hundreds of the top minds in technology, finance, and private enterprise from both Saudi Arabia and the United States. But my message to all of the leaders and investors with us today, and they are the best in the world, is very simple. Under the Trump administration, America is back and America is open for business. And America is actually stronger than it's ever been before, ever. We rebuilt the military in my first term. Foolishly, we gave a little bit to Afghanistan, but not very much compared to what we built. But now we're building it at levels that we've never done before. And in addition to that, we're sending a lot out to our allies, and we're making it possible for them to get it. I want those companies to build more plants, to build it faster. We want them to build it faster. The biggest problem we have is we have a backlog because it's so good. Every country wants our missiles, our jets. They want everything we have, and we got to go faster. We just have a new plane, the F-47. It won a very strong competition. It's the newest, and that was won by Boeing. By the way, Boeing is doing an amazing job of coming back. Kelly is doing a great job. They're really moving, and it's really great to see. But they won the competition for the jet fighter, and they say it reaches levels that has never been reached, both in terms of stealth and speed and everything else that they go by. So they're just completing their factory, and they've already started work on the F-47. How did that number get chosen? I don't know, but I didn't pick it. I did not pick it. It was said, sir, we'd like to present you with the F-47. I said, that's an unusual number. How did you pick that number? After 4 years of economic nightmares under the previous regime, sleepy Joe Biden, he was a sleepy guy, wasn't he? Think he would have been here today? I don't think so. Americans have rejected the failed, and they were really failed, far left models that you were looking at of high taxes and massive spending, soaring costs, crushing regulations, and trillions of dollars in green new scams. Everything was a new scam, green, green, green. Look, I'm all for the environmental everything. I'm all for climate change. You know, they have new word, climate change. It used to be global warming. It's global warming. Well, that didn't work because it started coming down. They did the global cooling thing. Then they just said, we can't keep up with this. It's too much. So we'll go, perfect words, climate change. They're covered. If it rains, if it snows, if it's warm, It's climate change is destroying the world, remember? The world was supposed to have been gone 2 years ago. They gave us 12 years, Howard, to live, right? 12 years. But that was 14 years ago. The world was going to burn up, but it got actually much cooler. They know these people. It's a little conspiracy out there. We have to investigate them immediately. They probably are being investigated. Their policies punished success, rewarded failure, and produced disaster, including the worst inflation in our country's history. We had the worst inflation in history, and now we have a beautiful, normal inflation. It's going to come down over the next few months a little bit more, but we have a nice, normal inflation. We had the highest inflation in the history of our country. 9 months ago, our country was dead. But now America is the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're the hottest country. I don't care what country you're with. America is the hottest country considered. And we did this in a period of 9 months. We're a little longer than that, but it took me about 2 weeks to get started. We're rewarding those who build and create, invent, and invest in the USA. And you know, our tax, our big, I call it the great, big, beautiful bill. It's the biggest bill ever passed in the history of Congress. And Scott and I and all of us, we sat down and we said, let's do it, along with the Speaker and John Thune and everybody, said, let's do it all in one bill. And a lot of people were totally, they said, you'll never get it approved. And we didn't have a huge majority. We had a huge presidential win. We won everything. We won all 7 swing states. We won the popular vote by millions. We won everything. But the one thing, we won one, it's called districts. The country has districts, and we won in terms of districts 2,750 to 550. And that's the most, that's why when you see the map of the election, it's the whole country, it's all red, and it's pretty amazing. 2 little blue streaks on the right and on the left, and they're very little and getting smaller. But it's been, you know, it's been pretty amazing. But in 4 long years, Joe Biden secured less than $1 trillion. In 9 short months, I've secured $18 trillion to rebuild our factories, create hundreds of thousands of jobs, and bring back those beautiful words, made in America. So think of that. He did less than $1 trillion in 4 years, and in 9 months, we've done more than $18 trillion, okay? That's called success. And we think that by the end of the first year, it'll be over $20 trillion. So, and thank you very much. You helped with that little boost you gave us, that little increase. We appreciate it so much. We appreciate you. So it's just one example. Under the deals being signed this week, workers at GE Aerospace, I think he's here. Where is he? Stand up. What a job you've done with your new engines. And where are you? You're there. It's not a very good location for you. I thought you have been amazing. Great new engine that's supposed to be more efficient, more powerful, and less costly. That's not a bad combination. But GE Aerospace will soon be delivering dozens of new airplane engines for 787 Dreamliners in Saudi Arabia's commercial fleet. Big order. It was a big order just secured. Every new job and every new factory created by these announcements builds up our middle class and strengthens, it really strengthens the industrial backbone of America. And, you know, I view it differently. I used to view it as it's great, great, great. The stock goes up. I view it, everything as jobs now, because I don't care. I care about jobs. And we have more jobs. It was just announced. We have more jobs right now than we've ever had in the history of our country. Those are big numbers. You know, it's like crazy. It's a great, just a great stat. More jobs today than we've ever had in the history of our country. And we're going to be producing a lot more are coming. In my first term, we built the greatest economy in the history of the world, and now we're do it again. But this is really bigger and better and stronger. The first term, we had what was considered the best economy that any president has ever had. That's nice. And we got hit with COVID, remember? And we did a great job with COVID, but that was a horrible thing for the whole world. The whole world suffered. Your country suffered. Everybody suffered. And despite that, we had the greatest economy. And before that, forget it. We blew it off the charts. I'll never forget, I met with pollsters the day before I got the news about COVID, but I met with two pollsters because we were starting to think about the next election. They said, sir, if George Washington and Abraham Lincoln came back from the dead and they aligned and they went for the president, vice president as a combination, you'd be beating them by 25 points. And then the next day I was told that something strange is happening. There's a lot of death being reported in a certain country. I won't tell you which one because that country is well represented here, but you know which one. And thousands and thousands of people are dying. And I said, that's strange. What would that be? And it turned out to be a disaster for the world. There's, nothing has been seen like that since 1917. I always thought that when I heard, pandemic or anything you want to call it, but I always thought that was like an ancient phenomena, that could never happen in modern times, but it did. But we did a great job with all of the things that we did with the vaccines, with so many of the drugs that we came up with, making you better. Regeneron as an example. Regeneron was fantastic. I give them great credit for what they did. But we did great, and then we started doing the gowns and the masks and the goggles and the ventilators. We were sending ventilators all over the world. We became the king of ventilators. But what a period of time that was for all of us. But despite that, we had the greatest economy in the history we had the greatest economy in the history of the world. And I'll tell you, it was an amazing time. But this looks like it's going to be blowing it away, because when these plants, which are being built now, and many are going to be started very shortly, many, but when they open, we're going to see numbers the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And, in some cases, you're building extremely complex plants. You're building plants to make computers and to make telephones, to make a lot of different things, missiles. But you're building plants that make things that are very, very detailed, and you have to have great knowledge. And you're coming here and you find, if we don't have people that did that before, we are allowing you, and I may take a little heat. I always take a little heat from my people, the people that love me and the people that I love. They happen to be toward the right of center, toward the right. Sometimes they're way right. But if you have to bring people to get those plants opened, we want you to do that, and we want those people to teach our people how to make computer chips and how to make other things. You can't come in, and I'm explaining, you can't come in, open up a massive computer chip factory for billions and billions of dollars like is being done in Arizona, and think you're going to hire people off an unemployment line to run it. They're going to have to bring thousands of people with them, and I'm going to welcome those people. Now, I love my conservative friends. I love MAGA, but this is MAGA. And those people are going to teach our people how to make computer chips, and in a short period of time, our people are going to be doing great, and those people can go home where they probably always want to be. When people are born someplace, they tend to want to go, and we have the greatest country in the world, but they want to go. But they're going to do. We had one case in Georgia where a battery factory, batteries are very dangerous to make. They're complex, much more complex than people understand. And they spent $1 billion to build a factory, and they were told to get out. And I said, stop it. Don't be stupid. And we worked it out. And now they're teaching our people how to do it. But they're going to have to spend, Jensen, I don't think you can open up a big plant with your friend from Taiwan where we're going to have 40 or 50% of the computer chip business I don't think you can do that with people that don't even know what a chip looks like. Do you agree with that? So somehow, the people that are against this are really, really smart. They're unbelievable patriots, but they just don't understand. Our people have to be taught. This is something they've never done. And we're not going to be successful if we don't allow people that invest billions of dollars in plant and equipment to bring a lot of their people from their country to get that plant open, operating, and working. I'm sorry. So my poll numbers just went down, but with smart people, they've gone way up. They've gone way up. And I mean that. So for those of you that are doing the plants, you're going to have all the help you need, and you're going to do a great job. And you're going to teach our people how to do it, and our people are going to be just as good as your people ever were in not such a long period of time. Since the election, the stock market has set, and this is a little more than 9 months, 46 all-time record highs. And the growth is now amazing, and it's lifting up the Americans and American economy like nobody's ever seen before. It's the biggest. There's never been a period of time like this. Wages for hourly workers are rising at the fastest pace in 60 years, and real wages for construction workers are up $2,200 a year, and that's good, and that's spending. They're going to spend. They're going to buy many of the things that you're making. In 9 months, we've lifted over 600,000 Americans off food stamps, and that's happening rapidly. You know, when we had the problem 2 weeks ago on the SNAP, and they talked about all of this, the numbers. So when I left, which was a rigged election, by the way, but that's okay. You know, they used to go crazy. I'd say rigged, nobody complains anymore because now they realize it was, and it's been proven, and it continues to be proven. But when I left, that number was $7 billion. Now it's $47 billion. That's Biden. So if you think about it, if Kamala, who's the same basic thing, grossly incompetent, he was incompetent, they're all incompetent because their policies are incompetent. Open borders, men playing in women's sports, transgender for everybody. I mean, they got the worst policy. I don't talk about it too much because if I talk about it, they might change. So, no, I don't talk about it. I tell people, don't talk about it. Wait till 2 weeks before the election and hit the hell out of them. Right? We talked about that, right, Elon? He said, we wait 2 weeks before. It's almost like you're at a war. Don't shoot yet. Don't shoot. Hold your fire. The enemy's rushing. Hold your fire. Don't shoot. Okay, now you can go. 2 weeks before. But I watched a guy the other day, a congressman, fighting for men playing in women's sports. And the new weightlifting record for a certain weight was just set. The man was 119 pounds higher than a woman champion who was a phenomenal champion. Beat her by 119, and he was an average lifter prior to transitioning. A lot of the Saudis are sitting here saying, what the hell is he talking about transition? They don't do a lot of transitioning. They're sitting here, the Saudis are saying, what is he talking about? They're saying, what do you mean women are playing against men? No, that doesn't happen, does it? Yeah, it does. These people are crazy. 1.9 million more American-born workers are employed today. Think of that, than when I took office. So we picked up almost 2 million workers, and more Americans are now working, as I said, than at any time in the history of our country. Under Biden, 1 out of every 4 new jobs went to increase the size of the federal government. So in other words, 1 out of 4 was a federal worker. Well, I love our federal workers, but that's not the way you can build a country. It's a short road to a disaster. Under my administration, 100%, think of that, of all new jobs created came out of the private sector. In fact, the federal government, we cut thousands and hundreds of thousands of jobs out of the federal government. Now, if I wanted to do something for purely political reasons, I'd say, Susie, let's hire a couple of million federal workers. And you know what happened? Unemployment is unbelievable. We don't do that. They did that. They used to hire workers in order to fudge up the numbers. The federal workers. By the way, Susie Wiles, most powerful woman anywhere in the world by the biggest, most important magazine. Susie Wiles, she had a father, Pat Summerall, the great announcer, football. He was a great football player, became an even greater, the voice of the NFL, and he was supposed to be a tough cookie, and I believe it 100%. Most powerful woman in the world. She can take out a country, take out a country with 1 phone call. That's power. I don't know if I could do that, but she could. Thank you, Susie. Do you feel good about the job you're doing? Huh? She's never going to be satisfied. She's doing a great job. We're also making incredible strides to make America affordable again. That's a new word that they're using. Affordability, they talk. They had the worst inflation in history. They had the highest prices in history. The country was going to hell. The only thing that we're going up in is our stock market, okay? The only price that we really have, I mean, we're bringing prices down, but they came up with a new word, affordability. And they look at we are all about affordability, and everyone assumes that that meant that, no, their prices were high. If you look at the numbers, since I took office, core inflation is now below 2.7%. It was at numbers that nobody had ever seen before with them. Walmart just announced that the cost of their standard Thanksgiving meal is reduced by 25% this year from last year. So they make, look, the Democrats, I don't know, some of you are probably liberal Democrats. I don't know about in your country. I don't know if you know that word, liberal. The word liberal doesn't exist. But they have a new word now. You can't use liberal, you have to use the word progressive. And I don't like using it. It's a beautiful word, progressive. Progressive, that's not them. They're regressive. No, they're regressive. Think of it. So if I don't get in, we have $20 trillion. Let's say she gets in. Instead of $20 trillion, you'd lose $10 trillion, and your welfare and other benefits would go up by 30%. Look at SNAP. Look at what happened there. From 7 million to 47. From 7 billion to 47 billion, it would be that. So we would lose business, countries and companies and people would flee our country. They would flee, and all of the other things would go up. In other words, would end up with the shell of a country, and I'm being nice when I use the word shell. This country would have been in big trouble, and I don't want to get him in trouble, but that gentleman right there, the most respected man in the room, that's today because we're here. Most respected man, I have to say that. Don't worry, when I'm with other countries and the leaders sitting there, I say the same about them. Don't worry. Don't get carried away. No, the most respected, one of the great leaders, he told me when I was in his country, he said, and I use it all the time. Sometimes I refer to him because I have great respect for him. I figure it sells better. But he said exactly these words. He said, it's amazing what you've done. 1 year ago, your country was dead, and now you've got the hottest country in the world. You were the first one that said that. And I've used your name hundreds of times. I use your name, I say, that king of Saudi Arabia said. But anyway, but it's true. We were a country that was in really bad trouble. We were a country that would have been dead, I believe, within a year or 2 years after the election. We were headed in a very bad direction. And now we're headed in the best direction, I think, that we've ever been headed. According to the USDA, Turkey is down, think of that, 33%. And I'm not talking about the country of Turkey. He's doing fine. Erdogan is doing good. Just want to, I don't want him calling me. I'm not down 33%. He's a friend of ours. We got to take care of our friends. Since March, egg prices are down 86%. Think of 86%. Many other prices are down in a similar number. When I first came into office, my first 3 days, I had a news conference, and they started screaming at me. Those people, that's a lot of people back there. Look at all the fake news. They started screaming at me, eggs, eggs. I didn't know anything about it. I said, what's going on with eggs? They're up quadruple. I said, I've only been here for 3 days. And we'll work on it. And we got them down very substantially. They said, don't buy eggs for Easter. At the White House, we have an Easter egg hunt. We buy thousands of eggs. The people come from all over, thousands. They asked me, sir, would it be possible this year to buy plastic eggs? I said, I'm not buying plastic eggs. The kids are going to pick up an egg. They're going to, what the hell kind of an egg is this? And we bought maximum number of regular eggs, and we got the prices. Brooke Rollins did a great job, Department of Agriculture. She did a fantastic job. And eggs are way down now. Mortgage rates are down despite the Fed. Scott, you got to work in this guy. He's got some real mental problems. No, there's something wrong with him. It's just sweet. I'll be honest, I'd love to fire his ass. He should be fired. Guy's grossly incompetent. And he should be sued for spending $4 billion to build a little building. I'm building a ballroom that's going to cost a tiny fraction of that, and it's bigger than the whole thing put together. You got to work on him, Scott. The only thing Scott's blowing it on is the Fed. Because the Fed, the rates are too high, Scott. And if you don't get it fixed fast, I'm going to fire your ass, okay? I can't tell you, Scott, sir, don't fire him. Sir, please don't fire him. He's got 3 months to go. Don't fire him. I want to get him out, Scott. Please. He's the voice of reason. You're very lucky you have him, I'll tell you that. Done a good job. I think Howard's a little bit more for firing him. Right, Howard? I think Howard would say, get him the hell out of there. Anyway, well, congressional Democrats wanted the largest tax hike